Hi everyone, happy Saturday. Hope you're doing well and welcome back to Clues by Sam. We are doing a hard one today. I hope that means that tomorrow we get an evil one, but let's focus on today's for now. If you don't know what Clues by Sam is, it is a daily logic puzzle game where you have 20 people and they may be criminals or innocents and they give you clues which you gotta use to figure out who is what. I can already see Diane's clue and I'm gonna start now, but if you wanna play the game before watching, you can check the link in the description, pause, and then come back. Otherwise, let's go. Now, Diane is telling us that there are no innocent cooks to the right of Bonnie. Oh, there's two cooks to the right of Bonnie, and we know that none of them are innocent. And we don't need Diane's clue anymore. Now, Carl, who's one of the cooks, tells us that only one of the three innocents neighboring Will is Zoe's neighbor. Okay, Will has 5 neighbors total, 3 of them are innocent. And he shares 2 neighbors with Zoe. So only one of those shared ones is an innocent. So we know there's one or the other situation here. And there's 2 more innocents on the other side of Will's neighbors. But we still don't know who is the innocent in this situation. Now, Erwin tells us that an odd number of innocents below Diane neighbor Susan. Below Diane, we have, where's Diane? Isaac, Maria, Robin, Zavi. And an odd number of them are innocent. And they also neighbor Susan. Okay. So what do we know? We know that the neighbors that Will and Zoe share also neighbor Susan, but below Diane, besides those people, there's also Maria. And we know that in here there's going to be one innocent among the people who are shared as neighbors by Zoe and Will. And the third person that Susan has as a neighbor who is below Diane is Maria. And if she is to be an innocent, then there will be 2 innocents neighboring her below Diane. And that's not an odd number, it's an even number. So Maria has to be a criminal. Hope I explained that well. Now, Maria tells us that there's an odd number of innocents in column C. Well, column C is the column that we were talking about. And now we know that besides Diane, who we already know is an innocent, there's one more innocent here who's either going to be Rob or Zavi. So that's, again, 2 innocents, and that's an even number. So we know that Isaac himself has to be our third innocent in column C to make an odd number. Now, Isaac tells us there's an odd number of innocents neighboring Zoe. Okay, again, same logic. We know that Zoe already has 1 innocent neighbor here. The other one's going to be a criminal. But Zoe only has 3 neighbors total. And the third one, which we don't know what they are still, is Susan. But she can only be a criminal because if she were to be an innocent, we would have 2 innocent neighbors for Zoe. And that's not an even number. So that's today's theme. So we know that Susan is a criminal. And we don't need Isaac's clue. Now Susan tells us that Will is one of Tyler's 2 criminal neighbors. So Will is a criminal. And Tyler, who is right here on the corner, has 2 criminal neighbors. So what does that tell us? It tells us that since Tyler has 3 neighbors total, and Will is 1 criminal, but he has to have 2 criminal neighbors, there's another criminal neighbor who's either going to be Olaf or Phil. Now, how many innocent neighbors does Will have? Carl tells us that Will has 3 innocent neighbors. And now we know that about 2 of them. One of them is either going to be Rob or Zavi. The other one's either going to be Olaf or Phil. We have to have a third one, and it has to be Tyler. There's no other person that could be an innocent here. So that's one thing, but we also didn't read Will's clue. Will tells us that exactly 1 cook has an innocent directly below them. How many cooks are there? There's Laura, Carl, and Irwin. So 3 possibilities, and we still don't know if Phil is an innocent or a criminal. But there's only one innocent below a cook. So let's keep that in mind. Other than that, there's Tyler. Tyler tells us that only one of the 3 innocents neighboring Isaac is in row 2. Where's Isaac? It's right here in column C. And we know that he has 3 innocent neighbors, of which we already know one, who is Diane. So there's 2 more innocents to find out, and one of them is in row 2. So we know that in Isaac's row, there's 1 more innocent who neighbors him, so either Hall or Jane are gonna be an innocent and the other one's gonna be a criminal. And that also tells us that either Laura or Nicole are gonna be an innocent and the other one a criminal. I'm running out of colors here because Isaac needs 1 more innocent neighbor besides the one that neighbors him in his own column. So now either Laura or Nicole are gonna be an innocent and the other one a criminal. Oh, so what do we have to look at now? We know for sure that either Carl or Irwin, who are both cooks, are gonna have 1 innocent below them. So there's no way that Laura could have an innocent below her, because that would break Isaac's innocent neighbors rule. So for sure, Laura has a criminal below her, so we know that Phil is a criminal, and because of that, Olaf is an innocent. Ooh. I thought Phil was flavor text, but he's giving us a clue. And I guess we don't need Susan's clue anymore, who talks about Tyler's neighbors. Now, we don't need Will's as well, because we've solved what could be solved with that clue. So now Phil tells us that he has the most innocent neighbors of everyone on the board. And so far he has 2 innocent neighbors, but we know that Isaac has 3 in total. So Phil has to have at least 4, as far as we know. And one of them is gonna be here, so that's 3. Now if Maria is not an innocent, Kay has to be 1. As far as we know, but we're not sure about that yet. Now let's look at Olaf's clue. Olaf's telling us that exactly 2 of Laura's 4 innocent neighbors also neighbor Maria. Where's Laura? Here. And we know that Laura has 4 innocent neighbors. So that tells us that Phil has 5 innocent neighbors. And what did I just say? Phil has 2 innocent neighbors here. Rob. Oh, if the school doesn't let me set Kay as an innocent, I'm gonna go bananas. But let's just put this together. Phil has the most innocent neighbors of anyone on the board. To have more than Laura, he has to have 5 innocent neighbors because Laura has 4. Olaf's telling us that Laura has 4. So Phil has to have 5 innocent neighbors total. He has 2 already here. He's gonna have 1 more here who's either gonna be Rob or Xavier, so that's 3. The only way he could have 5 is for both Kay and Laura to be innocent. So we know for sure that both of them are innocent. And because Laura is an innocent, Nicole is a criminal. Now, I'm glad that the clue let me do that. But I'm still not sure that anyone can have more innocent neighbors, so I'm gonna leave Phil's clue here. Let's look at Olaf's again. Laura has 4 innocent neighbors, and 2 of them also neighbor Maria. Okay, so Maria is here, and Laura shares 4 neighbors with her. Hall, Isaac, Phil, and Rob. What does that tell us? It tells us that if Hall is an innocent, Rob's a criminal, because Isaac is already an innocent that they share as neighbor. So only one of them, of the other ones could be an innocent. So if Hall is an innocent, Rob is a criminal and vice versa. But that doesn't tell us who yet. Now K tells us that there's an equal number of criminals in rows 2 and 5. Ooh, of criminals. We don't know about any of those rows yet. I don't know about any of those rows yet because both Floyd and Zoe are not figured out yet. So do we have to look again at Phil's clue? No, we gotta look at Laura's again because I mean Olaf talking about Laura because Laura has 4 innocent neighbors total, and we already know about 3 of them: Kay, Olaf, and Isaac. And we know there's gonna be one more here who's gonna be either Hall or Rob, so that's 4 total. So we know that Floyd, who is her last not assigned neighbor, has to be a criminal. Now that tells us the total of criminals in row 2. There's 2 criminals in row 2 because there's one or the other situation here, plus Floyd, that's 2 criminal neighbors. So now, if there's an equal number of criminals in rows 2 and 5, there has to be 2 criminal neighbors in row 5. Which tells us that if Xavier is a criminal, Zoe is an innocent, and vice versa. So what else do we have to look at? We have to do some tagging. Only one of the 3 innocents neighboring Isaac is in row 2. That's okay. Have I dismissed a clue that I shouldn't have? Only one of the 3 innocents neighboring Will is Zoe's neighbor. Okay. And that number of innocents below Diane neighbors Susan. Okay. Sorry about that. I have the most boring neighbors. Not a clue. There's an odd number of innocents neighboring Zoe. Yeah, we know there's only 1. There's an equal number of criminals in rows 2 and 5. Yeah, there has to be 2. There's an odd number of innocents in column C. Yeah, 3. Exactly 2 of Laura's 4 innocent neighbors also neighbor Maria. Yeah, we know about that. Phil has the most innocent neighbors, which is 5, so that tells us that no one else could have any more than 4, which is fine. There's no possibility of that anymore. Will is one of Tyler's 2 criminal neighbors. Yeah. Only one of the 3 innocents neighboring Isaac is in row 2. Okay, we know about that. Exactly 1 cook has an innocent. Yeah. So none of the clues. Excuse me? None of the clues tell me anything. Do I gotta put something together? Let's try tagging. If Hall is a criminal and Jane an innocent, we're looking at if Hall is a criminal and Jane an innocent. Rob has to be an innocent. If Rob is an innocent, Xavier is a criminal. Now row 2 has 2 criminals, and row 5 has to have 2 criminals, which are already here as well, so Zoe has to be an innocent. Fine. Now opposite. If Hall is an innocent, Jane is a criminal. And that means that Rob is a criminal. Now Xavier has to be an innocent. Zoe is then a criminal. Okay, that works as well. 2 here, 2 here. I think I'm looking at this completely wrong. Hall has to have 4 instant neighbors at most, since Phil has the most of them, and that total is 5. And Hall already has 4 instant neighbors: Diane, Isaac, Lauren, Kay. So Hall has to have Bonnie as a criminal neighbor. And I didn't have to do any tagging. So that was a waste of time. Bonnie tells us there's an odd number of innocents neighboring Susan. Oh. So Susan has one innocent neighbor here who's either going to be Rob or Xavi, and if Zoe, who is the last neighbor of hers, who could be anything, if she were to be an innocent, she would have 2 innocent neighbors, and that's not an odd number, so Zoe has to be a criminal. And since Zoe is a criminal, Xavi is an innocent. Since Xavi is an innocent, Rob is a criminal. Since Rob is a criminal, Hall is an innocent. Since Hall is an innocent, Jane is a criminal. And we are done. Well, I thought this was gonna go way harder than it was. But that was real good. I love an all green one hard in less than 16 minutes. Wow. That was fun. I hope you come back to see more Clues by Sam if you wish. I'm here every day doing them for practice, and I do play some other games on my channel as well. I do stream them, and if you like the video, like it, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.